welcome to this week's edition of the Pete Mezzetti Show. I'm your host. This evening's topic is a general overview of exactly what the judge of probate does in the local area and all the services that they offer. With me to discuss this evening's topic is Judge of Probate Terry Lomme. Terry, welcome.
Thank you, Peter.
Good to see you again.
Pleasure to be here.
It's been a while.
It has been a while.
But it's nice to see you again.
Yeah, thanks, and welcome. I'm very happy to be back here with you.
Thanks for coming down.
You bet.
All right, so we're going to talk about I understand that the probate court, they merged.
They did.
Can you tell us about that?
Sure.
All right.
Before 2010, there were 9 separate probate courts in what's now the Saybrook District.
Okay.
And they go from Clinton, Westbrook, Old Saybrook, Chester, Haddam, Essex, Deep River, Killingworth, and Lyme. So they're now all part of what's called the Saybrook District.
Okay.
And it was my job, after I got elected, to have that merger happen and to happen efficiently.
Okay. And how long did the process take?
Well, it didn't take us long. Fortunately, I was elected in November, and I took office in January.
Okay.
And so I was able to oversee it in that interim. But the courts were only closed for 2 days. We closed on all the courts, merged them, moved all the files, moved all of the filing cabinets, and 2 days later we're having hearings.
Now, let me ask you this question. Obviously, you merge the courts and everything is in one building, correct?
Correct.
Where are you?
We're at the old Saybrook Town Hall.
Okay.
On the second floor, and that's the old school building, which is behind the Kate
Right.
on Main Street in Old Saybrook.
Okay.
And it's a very nice facility.
It is.
And yeah, it works out really well for us. We enjoy being there.
So I'm assuming it's not just you in the court system.
No, I have 7 clerks.
All right.
I have a chief clerk.
Okay.
I have 3 full-time clerks, and then I have 4 assistant clerks.
Really? Wow.
Yep. I should say that. I have 3 assistant clerks and 1 part-time clerk.
Okay.
So
Now, what type of services do people normally call you for, or what do you normally do?
yeah, most people think that basically what we do is decedents' estates.
Okay.
And that's a big part of what we do. That's about half of what we do.
Okay.
But in my district, especially in this area, I do a lot of conservatorships because there's a lot of elderly people. There's a lot of convalescent homes in this area.
Sure.
And so we do a fair amount of that. I do a lot of children's matters. And children's matters are if we need to intervene to protect the child or to award custody to a child or take away parental rights from a parent who's not treating the child in a proper manner.
Right.
And there are children's courts, but they're either in New Haven or New London or in Meriden, and I just think those are too far away.
Too far to go.
Yeah, and a big city court, I don't think it's appropriate for our kids.
Now, have you ever had to intervene or
Oh, you bet.
take
Yeah.
take somebody away as far as custody goes?
Sure, sure. And we've what's called terminating a parental rights.
Okay.
Where the parent no longer has any parental rights, and then we do that on a fairly regular basis. We do custody probably 2 or 3 times a month, maybe more. I do
Wow.
custody matters, and the upside of all of that is if we terminate a parent, then oftentimes we'll have an adoption. Somebody will adopt that child, and that's terrific. We really like to do that. That's sort of a fun thing to do.
I'm sure you've seen your share of those as well.
Yes, we have. We share jurisdiction with the Superior Court, so people can now go to the Superior Court. But they like to come to our court because it's a little friendlier.
It is.
Yeah, it's a little easier access, and we try to make a big deal out of an adoption. You know,
Exactly.
we allow them to take pictures and do the whole thing because that's sort of a really kind of fun thing to do. You know?
It is.
Yeah,
it is.
And we give a certificate to the child, and so it's meaningful for them. It's the only time, Peter, that I use my gavel. And when I do an adoption, I'll let the child actually bang the gavel at the end just to So
Make it
if they're old
official?
enough. Yeah, and so they
Nice.
really get into it, and usually they really whack the gavel. So it's
Exactly.
like, okay, they're serious about this. You know?
Exactly.
So it's kind of fun.
Now, what are the hours of the court?
The court's open every day, 8:30 to 4:30, Monday through Friday.
Okay.
And then, of course, I'm always available if there's an emergency.
Right.
Yeah.
Just in case something happens.
If something happens on weekends. And
call and say,
Yeah.
hey, we need you, we need you, we need you.
I can assure you I've been there on weekends and nights and weekends, and so
Really?
I'm usually the last car out of the parking lot.
You're the last one to leave the building normally.
Yes, that's a fair statement.
Even on a Friday afternoon.
Even on a Friday afternoon, although those are the ones I try to protect a little bit in the summer.
Exactly, exactly.
But then, if just like being a lawyer, you get used to the fact that you don't leave till the work is done.
Exactly.
So
Now your term, and this is how you and I met.
Right.
4 years ago.
4 years ago.
You and I were out. I was out campaigning with the candidate.
Right.
And you were campaigning for
Right.
yourself, and I think we met. I think we met in Killingworth.
Killingworth,
That's
yes,
right.
exactly.
That's right. We met at the recycling center in Killingworth.
Yeah.
So
Still a hot campaign
I was
spot,
going to
by the
say
way.
it should still be there.
Yes, it is.
I haven't been up in a while, and it should probably still be there.
Yeah. So our term is 4 years.
Okay.
And actually, I'm now in the election cycle again.
Right.
And even though being a judge, of course, is not a political position,
No.
you still have to get elected. I suspect that pretty soon they will change that to an appointment, like all the other judges. But for now, probate judges are elected.
You think so? You think they'll change it to an appointment?
I do. I think there was a lot of interest when each of the towns had their own court to electing their own person, because trying to appoint, there were 117 courts. Trying to appoint 117 people would be a lot of work.
117 courts.
There was. Now there are 54.
Holy cow.
Yeah. So
Holy
almost each
cow.
town had their own court.
Wow.
And all of the 9 towns in this district each had their own court. So a small town like Lyme
Had their own court.
had their own court. So it was not the epitome of efficiency.
No.
As a result of the merger, we have saved the state over $12 million.
Really?
Yeah, because there's only one of me instead of 9 judges that there were here.
There's
So, and we've been able to really make it pretty efficient.
Now, obviously, you see different court cases, or besides the adoptions, other special ones that stick out for you?
There are. They're all sort of special in their own way, and one of the things that I love about my job is getting to meet people and getting to meet a whole variety of people. And so it's always interesting. As you know, I'm a veteran, and as a veteran, I really have a soft spot for veterans issues, because now we're seeing, of course, the influx of new veterans.
Sure.
But we're also seeing the guys in the Vietnam veteran era who have real serious issues as a result of some of the things that happened there. So those are of particular interest to me also.
And as far as the court systems and the way things run, how do you said that once you moved, there was a significant amount of money saved. What did you say? It was $12
million, over $12 million, yeah, so far.
And where's the once it's saved? Where's it go?
Where's it go? That's a good question. The way the finances work, it's pretty interesting. We're technically not under the judicial department.
Oh.
The state gives the probate administration the money to pay myself, the other judges, and all our staff.
Okay.
So what happened is probate administration just got less money.
Okay.
So the way it used to work is judges would get a percentage of the fees that they collected.
Okay.
And so that's not, the checks aren't even made out to the Saybrook Court. They're made out to the treasurer of the state of Connecticut now. So
really?
Yeah. So we in essence collect the checks, but we send them right up. We don't.
Exactly.
We don't get use of the funds. That's not us. So it's pretty efficient. But
it is.
Yeah, and it works pretty well.
Obviously, there have been no flaws as far as trying to get stuff done.
Yeah, no. I think the court works. I personally do about 20 hearings a week, and so we do 1,000 hearings a year. So I've had, I think, over 3,500 hearings.
Now, as far as a hearing goes, if somebody walks in, has to have a hearing for you? What types of things can they expect?
Well, first of all, unlike Superior Court, I don't wear a robe, and I don't have what's called a bench. I don't sit up high.
Yeah. You have a gavel, though.
I do have a gavel, but I only bring it for adoptions.
Oh, okay.
So we have a long conference, in essence, a conference table.
Okay.
Everybody sits around, and we have our hearing, and we go in an orderly fashion and let everybody have their say. Okay. And then I make a decision. If I can't get the parties to agree, then of course that's what they pay me to do, is make the decision, and that's what I do. So some hearings are 15 minutes. Some hearings are 3 hours. It depends.
Really?
Depends
on the topic.
Exactly, and how contested it is.
Exactly. I'm sure you've seen your. Oh, yeah. I'm sure. I was going to say, I'm sure you've seen your share of contested hearings that take
long time.
A couple days.
Yeah,
weeks.
I haven't had one that lasted more than several days, but we will try to stagger that so that I'm not pushing back the rest of the schedule.
Right.
So we'll do one day 1 week, and then one day another week, and we go through it till we get it done.
And do they normally, your docket or your schedule, like a day in advance?
I know it a week in advance.
Oh, okay.
I get my schedule on Monday, so I know it's coming up. I review all my cases so that I know what to expect and what the motions are, what people are requesting of the court. And I like to be prepared for the hearings.
Exactly, because you don't want to walk into a hearing
right.
and say,
why am I here?
Why am I here? What am I doing here?
And who are you?
Exactly. And how can I help you? What do you want?
Right. So I usually know that in advance.
Okay.
Now,
yes.
One of the tricky parts about being a judge is that people will say, well, I just want to talk to the judge. And the answer is, I can't talk to you. Unless we're in the hearing room, I can't discuss any matters. It's what's called, we have a funny term, ex parte communications, which means somebody can't just come up and talk to me. I mean, I'm happy to talk about the people if they don't have a hearing coming up or if there's nothing in front of the court. But if there is, then I can't speak to them.
And that's by state law, I'm assuming.
Yeah, and my clerks are pretty good at being gatekeepers.
I was going to say, have they ever had to say no to anyone?
Yes. Oh, a lot of times. I mean, we probably get once every couple of weeks. We probably get a request. I want to speak to the judge, and it's like no. And also on phone call.
No. Well, you know what? Speaking of the judge, would you mind sticking around for another segment?
Sure. Absolutely.
We'll be right back.
No more pencils. No more books.
No more teachers' dirty looks.
School's out for summer.
School's out forever.
School's out with fever.
School's out completely.
What this place needed was better graduation rates. So we worked with schools like Henry Ford High, and now they're up 18%. And it can happen in every place.
School's out for summer.
To help us do more good this year, go to unitedway.org, because great things happen when we live united.
And welcome back to this week's edition of the Pete Mezzetti Show. I'm your host, sitting here with Judge of Probate Terry Lomme. Terry, welcome back.
Nice to see you.
Good to see you again. So I guess we were talking during the first segment of the area of, I guess we're going to open this segment. How long is your term?
Term is 4 years.
Okay.
So we're elected every 4 years.
Okay.
And the term starts technically in January and expires in January. Election is with everybody else. November, sure. November 5th. Right. That's the only part of this job that, as I said before, is even political. Is the fact that we have to get elected.
And I was going to say, what is your for your campaigning and you're getting out and meeting with the people?
Right.
You've got a pretty good turf.
I do have a pretty good. It's 9 towns.
Yeah.
And so it starts in Haddam, all of Lower Middlesex County, and Lyme. So it's a fairly wide area.
I was going to say, with the exception of Lyme,
Right.
Your district is my viewing area.
Right. Well,
It-
exactly.
it-
So it's. I think there's 62,000 people in my district. So
Really?
it's a, yeah,
Wow.
it's,
All right.
it's a good-sized district. It's when we merged the courts, we merged more courts than anybody else had done in the state, and we're the second largest with a number of courts in the state.
Okay. And like you said, that you are up for re-election in November.
Correct.
And obviously, you have an opponent.
I do.
What's the difference between you and your opponent?
Well, I think the major difference is that I now have been a judge in this district for 4 years,
Uh-huh.
and before that, I was the judge in East Haddam for 3 years in the 90s. So I have 7 years of judicial experience. I think, as I mentioned before, we've had over 3,500 hearings. Before that, before I got elected, you may recall I was the president of the Middlesex County Bar Association, and I had always practiced probate.
Right.
Had been a major part of my practice for 30 years, and I'd been in all 9 of the courts that are now consist of my court.
Of your court.
So I knew all the clerks, I knew all the judges, and that's just been extraordinarily helpful to me.
Right.
In
No, go
addition,
ahead. Go ahead.
sorry, in
No, you're
addition
good.
to that, I've been, of course, we're required to have CLEs, we're continuing legal education
Right.
as a judge, and I exceed the required number every year. And so not only have I had practical experience, but I keep up on the newest laws and the newest stuff.
Now, as far as the CLEs, are those every year? Or are they
Every year.
Well,
Yeah. So we go to courses. There are what they call Judges Institute.
Okay.
And the probate administration puts those on. And so we go to those courses, and then I'm also a member of the National College of Probate Judges. So I go and listen to what's happening nationally to see if those trends affect us here. And it's always interesting.
really? I didn't know
Yeah.
you were a
Yeah.
member of that.
Oh yeah, and so we go to at least one of those. There are 2 a year, and we go to at least one a year.
Wow, that's
Yeah.
pretty impressive. And where are those normally held?
They're
Or does it
held.
depend?
They're usually held in the state in which the president of the of the National College
All right, okay.
resides. So they can be held anywhere.
All right. We ever have a president from Connecticut?
We're about to have a president from Connecticut.
And it's not you.
It's not me. No,
Okay. All right.
No, it is not.
Okay.
But we're about to have a president in Connecticut, and he chose actually to have his conference, which will be next year in Newport, Rhode Island. So that's where we'll be headed.
Oh, that's too bad.
Yeah, it's a
That's-
heartbreaker, but somebody's got to do it.
Yeah, right. Somebody's got to go, and I think it's you.
Right.
What's it usually a couple days, and what
It's usually Wednesday through Saturday.
do you normally talk about?
Anything,
Or does it
national
depend?
trends, what's going on, and it's really interesting. It's like all of these things, it's educational, but what's even more interesting for me is being able to talk to judges in different states.
Right.
How do they handle matters? What's the
Exactly.
difference? And the other thing is sometimes we have to transfer files from one state to another. Somebody moves, and it's very helpful to be able to call the other court and say, I'm the judge, I met your judge, can you tell me what's involved in this and what's involved in the process of getting that file transferred. So it's very helpful to me. I like it.
Really?
Yeah. I really enjoy that. And the other thing that I was appointed, I was the only newly elected judge to be appointed to the executive committee at probate administration. So that gives me a heads up as to what the new rules are going to be, what the new legislation is going to be, and that's very helpful to me.
Have the rules changed over the last 4 years?
They have. They of course, didn't want us to have it easy over the last 4 years, so in 2013,
No.
they did a massive change of rules, and so we've been instituting those, and they also made it a little more user-friendly because they put all the forms now online, and you can just go online, and most of them, about 90% of them, are fillable online.
Really?
Or you can just print them off
And bring them in?
and bring them in. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. So it really is much more user-friendly in that regard. We used to have, the old
The piles of
forms,
paper
right,
and
you had
here,
to type
fill this-
them, right, exactly, or printed.
Right.
So this is a lot easier.
Really?
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
that's
So
great.
it works pretty well, and I actually had all of the attorneys that I knew that practiced in my court in when they changed the rules, and we went through them. So I tried to address them, and tell them what
One
the
by
rules.
one.
Yeah, yeah.
How long did that take?
It was
hours?
Yeah. It was all of that, and then we had a little lunch so that people didn't pass out on us. And,
There you go.
And it was a good opportunity to discuss the rules and the changes that were coming down.
Now, do you still keep in touch with all the other judges once the court?
Oh yeah. Again, being on the executive committee.
Right, you
and
see
then-
everybody.
Yeah, I see. Well, there's about 20 of us, I think, on that committee, 18, and then at these seminars for the judges, I try to speak to the other. And again, the helpful part of that is just being able to discuss the way matters are handled.
Exactly. Now, how long does it take to process an estate in the court?
Aha. Okay. Typically, despite all of the rumors and all of the fear-mongering that goes on out there, it usually only takes about less than a year to process an estate through a court. Some, of course, if they're contested or if there's really difficult issues, then it can take longer. Back a few years ago, when real estate wasn't selling, if the estate needed to sell, the real estate, it held up the estate. But now things are moving again.
Things are moving pretty smoothly.
Yeah, and so we expect that most estates will be closed within a year.
Now, during an estate process, what normally happens? What's the normal procedure?
Normal procedure is the first thing that happens is the person submits the will, the death certificate, and the application to us.
Okay.
Then we open a file, and then the next thing that happens is they give us an inventory of what's in the estate. And then the next thing that happens is they file a tax return.
Okay.
Most estates, if they're under $2 million, don't have any taxes, but they file the tax return so we can determine whether it's under $2 million or not. And then the last thing they do is they file an accounting, which is now called a financial report.
All right.
And that's what wraps the estate up. So assuming they can do those things in order, it takes less than a year. If there's a problem, then there we are.
You just mentioned that if it's less than, what, $2,000?
$2 million.
Less than $2 million?
Yeah. There are no taxes for the state of Connecticut.
Why is that?
Because I think the state felt that it's really sort of unfair to tax people on a decedent's estate, to tax, in essence, widows and orphans.
Okay.
Unless it was over $2 million. If it's over $2 million, the sympathy meter reads a little less, a little lower. So the federal exemption is $5 million.
Really?
Yeah. So you don't pay federal taxes till you get over $5 million.
Now, have they ever, in your personal opinion, have they ever hit $2 million?
Oh yeah. Oh
2
sure.
million?
We get estates that are over $2 million, and we get estates that are over $5 million.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Holy cow.
Yeah. It's an interesting situation because there's a fair amount of people who are very wealthy in this area, and then there's a fair amount of people who aren't. And if your estate's under $40,000, then it's a really sort of a quick process.
Right.
And so we don't get very involved in that.
Exactly. Now, what type of documents do you recommend?
Oh, estate planning document.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. There are three that I think are absolutely essential: a will, a power of attorney,
Yeah.
and then what we call a living will or an advance directive, which determines what happens to you in the event that you're in a permanent comatose state. So wills are very important because they tell everybody where your assets go.
Okay.
Power of attorney is very handy to have a child or a brother or sister, somebody have a power of attorney, just in case you're either incapacitated or unavailable. You're off on a tropical island somewhere and
There you
somebody
go.
needs something,
Right.
that person can do it. And then the advance directive is, again, you're in a horrible car accident or something, you're in the emergency room, the doctors say there's no chance.
Right.
At least there's something written that says what you want to have. Do you want to be resuscitated or not?
Right.
And because your family can't possibly make that decision in the emergency room, I can assure you.
No,
It's
no.
impossible, right? It's just
Probably.
impossible. Yeah. And so if they know what your desires are, that's very helpful.
Now, as far as the 3 topics that we just talked about, how easy is it to get a power of attorney? How is-
Very easy, and I recommend that you have an attorney do it.
Okay.
Because if you mess it up, it takes us a while to sort it out. But to do that package should be in the probably $600 range, $600 to $700 range.
Really?
Yeah. So it's not, you hear rumors of it's a $10,000,
Yeah,
estate
no.
plan. I suspect if you're the Kennedys,
Right, exactly, yeah.
Jackie's will supposedly was extensive, maybe, but around here, it should definitely be less than $1,000, and I would say in the $600 to $700 range.
That's pretty
Pretty
affordable.
reasonable. Yeah,
It is.
It will save you a lot of money on the other end. I can assure you of that.
I was going to say, if you spend the $600-700 to do the whole package, it should save you probably like
It will save you.
$2,500.
Well, it would save you a lot of time and aggravation at the probate court because. And the other thing is that you determine where your assets go. If not, it goes by statute, and it may go to people you don't necessarily want it to go to. So you have to
Really?
be very. Yeah.
I didn't
yeah.
know. I did not know that. That's
If you. Let me just give you one example.
sure.
If you die and your children are, you and your spouses, the children are common to the two of you, then the spouse gets the first $100,000, but the rest is split between spouse and children. If they aren't your children, it's a second marriage for one
Right.
of you, then it's an even 50-50 split.
Really?
So so there's a lot of spouses who all of a sudden are shocked when they realize that the kids get half of the estate. And but with a will, you can determine who gets, it all goes to the spouse or it all goes, only a small portion goes to the children or however you want to do it.
Exactly. Wow,
Yeah.
that's pretty neat.
Yeah, it's a good idea.
It's pretty neat. Well, Terry Lomme, Judge of Probate, before we say goodnight, I just want to take this 15 seconds and thank you for coming down.
Well, thank you for having me.
And hopefully we'll have you on again soon.
Great, anytime, just let me know.
Terry Lomme, thanks for coming down. Good night. I'm Peter Mezzetti. Have a good night.